What do all of these artists have in common? They all utilize gimmicks in their music careers, some more so than others. In the age of social media, gimmicks have been more and more relied upon by artists to the point where they are nothing more than a walking gimmick. Without this gimmick, no one pays attention to their music. And this seems to have plagued many artists, especially recently. So join me today as we look into the gimmick rapper curse. But first, we need to understand what a gimmick rapper is. The definition of gimmick is a trick or device intended to attract attention, publicity, or business. Other definitions say a gimmick is what helps you stand out. And there's nothing inherently wrong with utilizing gimmicks. It's actually a good thing. Every artist or rapper utilizes gimmicks to some extent, and they have been forever. It's basically just marketing. Eminem had his whole controversial Slim Shady thing. MF Doom wore a mask and had this whole hip-hop supervillain persona. It's very common in hip-hop and pretty much every other genre. And when it's done right, it can really complement the artist's career. Of course, though, the word gimmick has some nuance and is usually meant with negative connotations. That's why today we aren't looking into people who did it right. We're going to be looking into people who relied too much on a gimmick and saw the consequences. So let's look into some gimmick rappers. Mario Judah is the epitome of a gimmick rapper. He first blew up with the song Die Very Rough, which while he may have not intended for it to become a gimmick, it definitely did. This song spawned a ton of memes, and if you guys don't remember, they were pretty funny. The song blew up because of how funny it was, along with going very viral on Twitter and TikTok. He later performed at Rolling Loud that same year because of how viral he was going, in which he doubled down on the gimmick.
Yeah, this guy, I don't even know if this is him. Yo, you mind taking the Illuminati hood off him? Yeah, but oh shit. Respect.
But people will die. The enemies will die.
So, explain this. This is one question I got for you. When you say nigga, a lot of people are assuming. Nigga! That's gotta be racist. There's no way.
Mario Judah was weird, goofy, had a strange look, and said and did strange things. People were paying a whole lot more attention to these things than his actual music, and that is when a gimmick has gone too far. He did drop a few more rockstar rap songs, but they didn't do nearly as well as Die Very Rough. But rather than working on his craft and deciding to create good music, he decided to start another gimmick. The same year as all the Die Very Rough virality, he announced that he was going to be releasing Playboi Carti's Whole Lotta Red album for him, since Carti was taking so long to drop it. At first, fans were eating this up because at the time it was pretty entertaining.
I'm just saying, like, 2 years, money, and niggas still ain't dropped their album. I'm sorry I had to come to this, bro. I wish you would have dropped it. Like, you know how bad niggas want to hear that shit? Like, really bad, nigga.
Mario Judah gave Carti a week to drop the album on December 6th, and then caught the world by surprise when he dropped a single that actually sounded like Carti the same day, called Be Ya. To be fair, the song was an amazing replica of Playboi Carti's old sound and style, and people were pretty impressed. But they weren't impressed enough to check out the rest of Mario Judah's version of Whole Lotta Red, as the EP didn't do all that well. Mario Judah was not even 6 months into his career, and he had already milked 2 gimmicks dry: the strange rockstar Die Very Rough gimmick and the fake Playboi Carti gimmick. And unfortunately for him, he didn't have the catalog to back it up. Mario Judah, in my honest opinion, was talented. He had a cool, unique vocal sound, he was able to replicate styles, and he was good at producing beats, because if you didn't know, he produced the majority of his beats. But rather than making his own original music, he was copying Carti, doing remixes, and fiending for more attention. I covered this before, but he literally faked domestic abuse in an attempt to promote one of his songs. The novelty of his gimmicks dried up, and he was left with nothing. His latest project, Endure, has most songs barely cracking 100K plays on Spotify. This is the danger of relying too heavily on gimmicks, because if the music isn't there, the fans are gonna split, especially with how short everyone's attention span is. Mario Judah was viewed more as a walking meme than an actual artist. In my opinion, someone who did it right in comparison is Young Gravy, who very much so blew up due to the meme rap era, but is still around today. Young Gravy also heavily relies on gimmicks, but he has stuff to back it up. He literally blew up from songs like One Thought, Two Thought, Red Thought, Blue Thought. It was not serious whatsoever. His gimmicks include talking about MILFs, talking about thoughts, talking about gravy trains, being really tall, having nice hair, and being really handsome. But because he's funny and his music is alright, he has been able to remain relevant. His most recent hit, Betty Get Money, was a product of him hopping on the trend of making a mediocre song on top of an already really popular sample, like, Jack Harlow did, Meghan Trainor did, and plenty of others have done before. Gravy knows how to make people care about him, like by hanging around people who he knows have similar audiences, which grows that bond. And honestly, I do think Gravy has a handful of decent songs. So while both of them are known for being pretty funny and entertaining, Gravy was able to utilize gimmicks to take advantage and remain relevant, which is exactly where Mario Judah went wrong. Lil Mabu is another rapper who has relied heavily on gimmicks for his entire career, and it seems like his gimmick may also be drying up. Lil Mabu started his rap career as your average high school kid singing with autotune on SoundCloud.
I got gushers in my lane, foreigns whizzing down the road.
Eventually though, he decided to switch to drill music, a much more aggressive and violent subgenre of rap. Wikipedia describes it as lyrically similar to the gangster rap subgenre. So Mabu getting in on this was pretty interesting. He started developing this whole persona of being a preppy nerdy white kid who was living a double life as a gangster rapper. His gimmick was complete, and by 2023 it was bringing him a ton of attention. It's obvious throughout all of his content that this is the image he is going for.
Yo, Favi, I got a question. Can I do a hit on a scooter?
Now, it's very obvious that Lil Mabu isn't a gangster, but for some reason a lot of people ate this up. He also utilized TikTok a lot, which is a method that has been really useful in pushing a gimmick. For example, his song Mathematical Disrespect even charted on the Billboard Hot 100. He has a few songs with hundreds of millions of streams on Spotify, with every song playing on the gimmick that he is a rich preppy white kid pretending to be a gangster. Songs like Mr. Take Your Bitch, No Snitching, Teach Me How to Drill, Trip to the Hood, everything about Mabu's image relies on this gimmick. But like we've seen, unless you have more to your career than just a gimmick, it's bound to die. I made a video about Lil Mabu a few months ago, and at the end I gave him credit saying I'm excited to see how he prolongs his career because I thought he was decent when it came to marketing. However, shortly after that video, he released his debut album Young Genius, and it didn't do too well. When reviewed by both critics and fans, people thought the album was very bad, and I can't say I disagree with them. People are seemingly getting tired of the rich white kid pretending to be a gangster gimmick that he's been doing for years, as his numbers seem to be stagnating. Now, I'm not saying his career is dead, it's very possible he could fix this, but his career is extremely reliant on this very tired gimmick. One viewer commented on my video saying, Mabu is entertaining, but I feel like rappers like him just don't last long after their momentum. The white boy trend gets boring after a while, but we'll see how far this one goes. And this comment mentions how this happens a lot. I mean, look at Ian, who is playing on the nerdy white kid talking about hard stuff gimmick, just like many others who have come before him. I do think he's got some good songs, but if he keeps harping on this gimmick, I don't see his career having much longevity. An example of a rapper who had a fake tough persona, but still had a great career was Rick Ross. And I know you're thinking, how can you compare Lil Mabu to Rick Ross? Are you crazy? Hear me out. I've covered Rick Ross a few times on this channel about how he faked his entire image and stole his name from Freeway Rick Ross, the notorious drug lord. And Freeway Ricky spoke on Rick Ross stealing his name and image and even tried to sue him. He also went to school for criminal justice and was a correctional officer. So when his debut single Hustlin' was about him selling drugs and knowing other drug lords, it was a little bit backwards. And most fans know that Rick Ross was lying about half the stuff he's rapping about, but most don't care for simple reasons. One, his music is actually good and he's consistently put out good verses throughout his entire career. And two, he doesn't try too hard to act hard like Lil Mabu does. Ross makes it look natural, so much so that even while knowing about his lies, many fans still believe he's about what he raps about. Ricky Rose's gimmick is not the singular reason he is successful, which is why he has had so much longevity. Mabu, however, is relying too heavily on his gimmick and may end up facing the consequences. If Mario Judah is the epitome of a gimmick rapper, then Lil Pump is a gimmick rapper incarnate. I just looked up synonyms for epitome to make my point, but they're both the same word. I'm not as smart as I try to sound. But Lil Pump relied on gimmicks so much that the only time you hear about him these days is because of gimmicks. Lil Pump started blowing up with tracks like D-Rose and Boss on SoundCloud. And one thing about these songs is that they weren't very thoughtful. They were instead ignorant with terrible lyricism. But they were fun, which is why people like them. Pump wasn't shy about his songs being ignorant either, as it was literally something he mentioned quite often. I mean, one of his earliest songs is called Ignorant, where he says, people hating on me because I'm ignorant. And on one of his most popular songs, I Love It with Kanye, he says, me and my people getting ignorant like a lighter, we ignorant. So Pump in his music was unapologetically ignorant, which was attractive to his younger fans who thought it was a cool, rebellious attitude. On top of that, the multitude of ignorant gimmicks he did on social media really helped him go viral.
You're going 70 miles per hour. How long would it take you to drive 70 miles?
70, nigga?
Pump was playing on the fact that he was ignorant, stupid, obnoxious, and just trying to have fun. He leveraged that to his advantage, and tons of young kids followed him thinking he was funny and entertaining. Well, maybe he wasn't doing it on purpose, maybe he just was stupid and ignorant and whatever. I don't know, but regardless, it was a marketing gimmick. However, it seemed like over time, people's interest in his gimmicks began outweighing their interest in his music. It was entertaining to people for a couple of years, but eventually it got played out. It's hard to explain how ignorant and obnoxious this whole era was if you weren't there, but everyone on Instagram was fiending for clout, making crazy videos, including Lil Pump.
Say no to drugs.
Oh, yeah.
A kid's coloring book. And you can sample this for some of your records.
This is good because I could barely read, so I like looking at pictures better, you know? And everything down, bitch. You shutting down school shows, all that, bitch. All of that. All that.
Askada!
Get it!
To be fair, that clip was a little funny, but mostly because of Nardwar. After the massive success of Gucci Gang, it was all downhill from there. He did see success with songs like Designer, Get It, Welcome to the Party, I Love It, and some other songs, but the numbers were consistently going down. By the end of 2020, Pump's numbers have dropped significantly. It was the same repetitive songs coupled with the same repetitive gimmicks. He didn't grow up with his fans. Instead, he kept trying to be the dumb, ignorant kid that was always going viral. But he kept attempting the same gimmicks years later, which at that point just looked desperate. Like when he went to a Trump rally and Trump said his name wrong.
Lil Pimp.
It was so out of character, and Pump was clearly just looking for attention, especially since he was saying F Trump years prior. J. Cole even predicted this on the song 1985 when he said, "One day them kids that's listening gonna grow up and get too old for that shit that made you blow up. Now your show's looking light cause they don't show up, which unfortunately means the money's slow up. Now you scrambling and hoping to get hot again, but you forgot you only popped because you was riding trends." J. Cole was able to recognize that this gimmick Pump was doing was eventually going to get old and that his fans were going to get tired of it. Pump still is stuck in his ignorant ways. He never changed up his sound and has continued the same ignorant, rebellious gimmick throughout his entire career. Someone who utilized a similar gimmick and then shifted was Playboi Carti. And again, you guys are going to think these comparisons are all crazy, but I promise you they're not. When Carti first came out, people were saying the same things about him. They were calling him a mumble rapper with no lyrical substance who just repeats words. Of course, Carti wasn't like fiending for clout on social media like Pump was, but he also wasn't spitting life-changing bars in his music. However, what Carti did was he evolved and he pivoted. He changed both his sound and his gimmick. Rather than doing the whole ignorant SoundCloud rapper thing forever, he switched to a weird, mysterious vampire rock star thing. And regardless of what you think about it, his fans eat it up. I'm sure he won't keep doing this thing forever, and when people start getting bored of it, I'm sure he'll pivot again. That's one thing that a lot of these gimmick rappers struggle with, and that is knowing when to pivot to something new rather than exhausting the same gimmick for years on end, which is exactly why people got tired of Lil Pump. Sure, the ignorant and goofy gimmick is funny for a few years, but eventually people tend to grow up and get tired of it. 6ix9ine is another rapper whose main gimmick was controversy, and a lot of it. It was like 6ix9ine's objective was to be annoying, problematic, and obnoxious. So Tekashi 6ix9ine first got major attention with the song Gummo in 2017, and right out of the gate he's provocative. Whether it's the rainbow hair and grills, the 6ix9ine's tatted all over his body and face, or him having a felony for getting active with a minor, everything about 6ix9ine was controversial.
How many people came for me? How many people? A lot. Why? Because I'm the hottest artist. And nobody ever gonna take
You don't think telling people to suck your dick online got anything to do with it too?
Nah, I tell niggas suck my every day.
After this, he had a bunch more songs see success like Kuda, Kiki, Fifi, and a bunch of other weirdly named songs. He even got to work with Kanye West, which honestly, after all the collabs he'd been giving out around that time period, wasn't ultra impressive. But even though Gummo may have banged in 2017, his music was pretty objectively not that great. I mean, he even said it himself.
Only cool because I could tell him the truth and he's not gonna get offended. Most people gonna get offended.
I'm not, bro. I know my music is trash. It's just hot trash, you know what I'm saying?
Tekashi focused way more on gimmicks like looking funny, acting hard, and making these rainbow music videos rather than actually trying to make good music. And honestly, with his voice, he probably could have made some hard songs, but his focus was in other places. Like I said, during this era, everyone was fiending for clout and acting unstoppable, and 6ix9ine was one of them. He was beefing with every artist in the game, including Casanova, Bad Baby, Pierre Bourne, Trippie Redd, YG, City Morgue, and many more artists. And of course, you can't forget his gang affiliation that that was heavily intertwined into his gimmick. Not only was he controversial in his looks and his actions, but he acted like a gangster online and in his music. He was arrested multiple times for choking a 16-year-old boy, operating a vehicle without a license, his sexual misconduct case, and more. One of his associates was even arrested for shooting at Casanova's crew while they were shooting a music video. As Forbes said, 6ix9ine wore these altercations as badges of honor, using them to boost his credibility. Speaking of credibility, 6ix9ine even joined a gang for his image as he believed he was securing a form of protection and a stamp of street authenticity that would guarantee musical stardom. Of course, as we all know, this resulted in him snitching, being labeled as a rat, and losing all of his credibility after being arrested on RICO charges. And while he did see some success after this, people got tired of hearing the same old songs from the loud, rainbow-headed weirdo who still thought controversy was going to help his career. If you check out his last album, his numbers are pitiful compared to what they once were, because his gimmick got old. The Forbes article I referenced earlier was called "Tekashi 6ix9ine Built a Career Out of Controversy, Now It May Destroy Him," which is essentially what happened. People were tired of the controversy. Can you guess who I'm going to compare 6ix9ine to? Eminem. To some of the fools out there, this may sound like another crazy comparison, but Eminem also largely built a lot of his popularity somewhat off of controversy. He's been accused of being homophobic, a misogynist, blamed for school beefed with tons of celebrities, accused of being racist, and many more. But regardless of the massive amount of controversy that Eminem has been involved in, his music was good. It was really good. That's why he has such a diehard fan base and is one of the best-selling rappers of all time. His music, while being somewhat controversial, stands on its own. Eminem doesn't need to go do something crazy to get you to listen to his new song. On top of that, Eminem didn't push it nearly as far as 6ix9ine. Eminem may have said he was gonna kill someone in his songs, but he never actually put out hits on people or was involved in gangs. He didn't need street cred because he was telling his story through his music. 6ix9ine had to prove himself elsewhere because his music didn't speak for itself. Well, nowadays many people would say Eminem's controversial, rebellious gimmick is getting old, to which I'd probably agree. It's a gimmick that back in the day worked, and he didn't solely rely on it. When M wasn't saying super controversial things, he was making songs like Lose Yourself, Mockingbird, and Stan, some of the best rap songs ever. I say all of this to say, if you're an artist, don't rely too heavily on gimmicks. In this video, we've gone over artists who relied on them too much and failed, and artists who utilized them just the right amount to see success and capitalize on it. And I'm kind of getting sick of all these rappers coming out now with these stupid gimmicks and going viral on TikTok. Well, on the other hand, their music is half-baked and not good. So if you were planning on doing that, I hope after watching this video, you may have a bit of reconsideration.